Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Telemedicine Talks. As always, we have Phoebe Gutierrez, your host, and your co-host, Leah Damasco. We have an awesome guest today. We have Christopher Cannell. He is a doctor-trained physician assistant with experience in emergency medicine, ortho, critical care, and internal medicine, but now also nationally recognized in the medical legal field and in the healthcare consultant field with more than 22 years of multidisciplinary clinical and leadership experience. He works at the intersection of medicine, law, and education and provides clear, objective, impactful solutions that can help organizations and legal teams navigate through the complex healthcare matters, mitigate risks, and improve outcomes. We are super stoked to have you. We've never really talked about kind of this medical, legal, healthcare kind of opportunities, and it's going to be kind of interesting to be able to delve into that. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us and taking your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity today.
Yeah, this is a question that we've talked about. We need a new question, but we're going to start with this old question. So, doing what you're doing now and in your journey, is this always what you wanted to do? Reach back to kind of like your first grade self. Is this what you wanted to do? Did you want to be a PA and work in this field, or did you have something bigger, better, cooler plans for yourself?
Yeah, I knew coming out of high school I wanted to get into healthcare. I didn't really know what it was. I thought I wanted to become a physical therapist at the time. I wasn't sure. My sister unfortunately had, a childhood cancer that really affected me and my journey and sort of where I wanted to be in life. And, thankfully she turned out well, but that sort of the travels into New York City for us as a family growing up in New Jersey for her cancer care really sort of changed me. And I went through college as a pre-med track, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Eventually sort of got exposed to the PA field and thought, hey, this sounds like a good option for me. I was taking out a lot of loans for school. I'm like, I don't want to take out enough loans, for medical school. And so I just felt like, hey, let's try it. So I went to PA school right out of undergraduate, moved up to Boston about 5 days after I graduated college and started PA school. And so it's been quite the journey, going on almost 23 years now. And, where I'm at now, I'm not sure I would ever have imagined I would have gotten here.
Yeah. So it looks like, you've been in a lot of different kind of specialties, right? EM, ortho, critical care, internal medicine, and now you find yourself, not necessarily at bedside, right? So
Well, I'm still working clinically. Yeah.
what specialty are you doing?
Yeah. So I spent most of my career working in emergency medicine, and I've worn lots of other different hats to moonlight. I started out my career in orthopedic surgery, and then I'm still actually moonlighting in orthopedic surgery, but I've actually dropped down clinically now to working part-time so I can work in education. I'm a full-time professor now. And then I work clinically, and then the rest of my work is done with the consulting work.
Yeah. Tell us a lot about this consulting work. What do you do and how'd you get into it?
Yeah, I can put it pretty simple. I got sued. So there's no real magic way I got into it. It was just working as a PA and unfortunately working at the highest risk field there is, which is emergency medicine. And I got sued and I won. And I won because I was a good witness. I was well prepared. I was professional. I was tactful. I resonated with the jury. And the attorneys that I worked with, they loved working with me, and so much so that they hired me to be an expert. And so that's how I got into it. Yeah, I made a bad situation and turned into what appears to be a great career alternative now for me. And I've really used that experience to really help others, as well as the consulting work that I do. So I've also turned it into an educational experience with my assistant professor work.
What a story. That's a crazy story, man. Talk about, turning lemonade from lemons. Not a lot of people could say that, right? So what about that, right? Honestly, a lot of us, I'm in the emergency medicine field as well, right? And it's just part of the job, right? It's part of the job that, get ready for that lawsuit. Shoot, what's that? The most recent episode of The Pit, right? Talked about that too, right? The majority of us are going to get sued. Honestly, I've been in a couple of depositions. I've been on the witness stand, not for my suit, but as a witness and whatnot. I've never been called back. I guess I wasn't that resonating or that magnetic of a personality. So what are they looking for? I think, it's definitely a viable option to get into, right? As a side gig, or even if you try to make it your main gig. But what are people looking for? How do you get in that? There's obviously something that the lawyers saw and was like, hey, this is going to be a good guy for us to use. what are kind of the traits that they're looking for or the approaches that you could share?
Yeah, I think they want to see someone who's well prepared, someone who really knows the medicine, who understands the standard of care, who's really able to really dissect the case and look at it from all angles and understand it not just from the provider's angle, but look at it from the nurse's angle, the patient's angle. Don't try to play Monday morning quarterback. Just try to focus on, a prospective evaluation of the case. And I think, they want someone who can stand up to a plaintiff attorney or a defense attorney who's trying to attack you or disparage you and look at your credibility. And I was able to stand up to that. I've been able to demonstrate my professionalism, to stand pat with my beliefs and understanding of the case and the facts of the case. And not everybody can do that. Not everybody can withstand that onslaught that you can while in the middle of a deposition. But, I've been able to do that. And I really look at every single case in very explicit detail. I'm very thorough with my research on the evidence, scouring all the literature. And when you work in clinical practice and you really try to perfect your skill, I have an advanced credentialing in emergency medicine. I've done lots of different types of training and educational events and mentoring and teaching. So the more you sort of hone yourself as a subject matter expert, the better chance you're able to get case after case. And the attorneys really, they talk to each other and it's word of mouth, a lot of it. So to get further cases is a great way to approach it by sort of, being that professional and getting repeat business.
Now, do they tap you for certain kind of cases, like specifically EM, ortho cases, or is it just kind of across the board?
Yeah. So being a PA is kind of funny in the sense that, it depends on the state. The overwhelming majority of work I do is emergency medicine, which has been my specialty since 2005. But I also opine on some orthopedic cases. I've opined on internal medicine cases. And again, depends on the state. I just opined on a family medicine, a primary care case, and that's the reason why I've worn so many hats. Because, working in all these different specialties, it allows me that experience and that exposure and allows me to be a great expert. Because I do understand, medicine all the way from the outpatient sector all the way to the ICU. And so, being a PA is special in that regard, but, it just depends on the state. Because as a PA, our license allows us to work in different specialties.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know PA, there are some, specialist kind of certification or residencies, but yeah, you definitely the ability to jump across the board. I have many friends that have done that, started from the EM side and gone to the inpatient dark side or vice versa. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, absolutely. And now from this, you've created kind of an educational piece, right? And a mentoring piece and a consultant piece. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'm the current president of PAs in legal medicine. And really our goal is to work on our mission is really focus on risk mitigation, trying to, work with students, work with other colleagues, really expand awareness of what we do and try to sort of get into in-house work as well. But in addition to that, my goal is also expanding my knowledge because I got extra credentialing to become a certified medical professional legal consultant. And then working with different law firms and in-house work, but also working with medical liability companies, but also on the doctorate side. So I'm the assistant professor within a doctorate program and working on the different healthcare law principles for the students as well. And then lastly, there's an opportunity that I've now created, which is a masterclass, trying to teach other clinicians how to do this work so that they can become successful. I think we're all looking for greater wellness and diversity of income within our lives. And my own personal story, I don't think working full-time in medicine anymore is great for anyone. I think there's just so much burnout because of the operational nonsense and the billing nonsense, the insurance nonsense, the administrative nonsense. I think the best path for any of us who work in medicine is to diversify our income. And it really keeps us fresh and keeps us coming back for more. And really, the whole reason we went into medicine is to help patients. Well, sometimes that gets lost. And so my goal with the masterclass is to give other clinicians, another form of income so that they can have improved wellness, have a little bit more control over their schedule, have more family time. So,
going back, that's a common theme with a lot of the guests and actually what we talk about personally too, right? I totally agree. It's a different world out there, right? You've been practicing for 22 years. Yeah, you and I probably went in the same time. And, you're like that old cod, you know what I mean? Sitting in the front porch, my knee hurts when the weather moves. It does, by the way. It really does. It hurts right now. but it's different, right? It's different. The expectations are different. The logistics are different. And, I never really thought that I would get burnt out the way I got burnt out. It was just kind of, you hit a wall, right? And you're just like, what do I do now? COVID definitely helped speed up that process.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's trying to find a different alternative. Like, how was your jump? A lot of people, one of the biggest speed bumps is to make that jump, right? We've learned so much. How many hours? Clinician hours, in bedside, really didactic, really just drilled into us that, this is what you're going to do. Clinical medicine, blah, blah, blah. You can be bedside, but nobody's ever really taught us to think beyond the box. At least I have, or maybe I missed that class. I don't know. I missed a bunch of classes, but like, how was that for you? And I guess that realization that this is possible, us, because you're going down an alternative path, and not necessarily alternative, but a different path. But it sounds like it's very positive for you, right? It's very fulfilling for you. How is that mindset kind of switch that you take it?
It's scary. You don't know how you're going to go about it. Like, we're not trained in business. We're not trained in entrepreneurship. We're not trained on taxes. We're not trained on how to open up an LLC, or, how to track our spending, or how to organize, how to work a business associate agreement, or, how to create documents in a space where that's HIPAA compliant. Yeah, you have to learn all this stuff along the way. And you also have to learn how to be an expert. You have to learn the healthcare law principles. It's a definite learning curve. And, it's scary. And it wasn't until like the last several years where I've been able to really elevate what I do, just because it was tough to find that balance working full-time clinically and then do that work. At one point I hired a VA, didn't really work out. Now I have another VA, and I really found the system that works best for me. And, I have a great, software that really works. I found free ways to run my business with very little overhead, ways to submit invoices, work with an attorney. So it's a learning curve, and it's a learning process, and it takes time to build your clients. It takes time to build that skill set. But eventually, like, I was able to do it, over 6 figures, just doing it part-time. And I'm like, holy crap, like, this created a whole new world for me, that I can now work clinically part-time. I can now teach, which is really what I enjoy doing, and really make a lasting impact on others. So it really has opened up tremendous doors for me, but it took a while. It took a long time to find that balance.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds like now, you're working because you want to, right? Instead of like, oh, I have to work because I have to, right? You're doing things that you want to be doing, right? That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And
it's doing it on your terms, and it takes a long time, and it's not always this linear line for people. And sometimes it just finds you, like, opportunities find you. But the best way to do that is just network, to be holistic and be organic, and just be kind and nice and self-serving to other people, because it will pay itself back.
that's a good point. And it's kind of lost sometimes. You know what I mean? Definitely lost sometimes in that. I totally agree. I totally believe in the whole karma situation, right? You're going to get what you put out there. And honestly, sometimes you've seen some people that are very successful, putting it out there, but they put it out there with vitriol or, negativity. It's going to come back. So I really like that point that you just made. It's just, hey, there's different ways to do things, but I think the most successful people that I've found are the ones that are like that, that have kept that in mind. So,
Yeah. And to Chris's point, I think one of the interesting things is, like, I think very often, and, I talk a lot about this on the podcast, but clinicians specifically are very set in process of, like, if I follow these steps, I'm going to, do these things. And to Chris's point, like, sometimes it's like, it's those weird life happenings that kind of open your eyes and get you to experience something different, that you're like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting. I say clinicians and lawyers have the most in common of, like, the professions, but you guys just don't speak the same language. And, like,
oh,
once you
you're going to
found out,
point
like,
it to those people.
yeah, so Chris can talk to
Awesome.
it, because it's like, now he speaks that language. It's an interesting thing if you kind of just, like, open your eyes and are, open to the different opportunities that you could take on.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like when I also feel like people, when they look at the work that I do, they think like I'm going to the dark side, right? Working as an expert. Oh, I'm going against a colleague. It's sort of like you going in to work for like the pharmaceutical company or the biotech giants. And it's really not true. Like, I'm actually contributing to better quality of care and improved safety. And I don't look at it in the way that, I'm going against somebody. All I'm doing is reviewing a chart. That's all I'm doing. I'm reviewing a chart for the standard of care, and I have nothing to do with the outcome. All I do is comment on the standard of care. And if people can understand that and realize that, they're really, hey, like, I've made more money doing this than anything I can ever do clinically. And, you have to understand, like, that's just the process. But I truly believe I'm contributing to a better quality healthcare system because of the work that I do.
Yeah, that's a very common concern or criticism of this line of work, right? So that, yeah, you're the expert witness, and I don't know, either for the plaintiff or defendant, who knows, right? But a lot of times, and I joke about it. One disclaimer: I love my legal team and the legal people I work with. Always love you guys. Thank you for keeping me clean. And these are all jokes, but you kind of hit on that argument. You're furthering patient care as long as you stick with standard of care. But like, have you had people come up to you and just be like, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you working with the lawyers?" And can you delve deeper into that? You kind of mentioned it, but tell us more about how that approach is. Is it pretty common that you kind of get that criticism?
Yeah, I think people sort of like, they look at it and say, oh, like, you're going against a colleague. I'm like, I'm not going against a colleague. All I'm asking to do is review a chart. The situation is what the situation is. I have nothing to do with that situation. I'm an expert, just as you two are experts in what you do. And when it comes to a case, they want an expert to review the case. And I think if you really focus on that principle, like, then I think people have a better understanding of it. And when you talk about sort of your ability to sort of generate a side hustle or a side income from it, I think that they're open their eyes a little bit more, because I definitely have changed people's views when they thought about it. Like, I've had others who are just steadfast about it, and that's fine. It's not for everyone, but I think, at least sort of be open to the idea that it's more than just a side hustle. It's now created a different career trajectory for me. So I think people just need to be open to the possibility that there are other options out there besides bedsides clinical medicine.
And tell us more about this consultant firm that basically kind of grew out of this, right? Now you've created a consultant firm, the APC consultant. Tell us more about that and what you're doing there.
Yeah. So slowly but surely, I'm trying to grow it. My plan as it exists right now is that we're going to continue to sort of try to find experts for attorneys, try to vest those experts by doing a proper training class for them and working with them and really having a good eye on what a good expert is. And then in addition to that training, so getting a good database of experts to then be able to provide to attorneys and market them for them to attorneys. And then my other work is try to create a better professional hub for colleagues. So, I have a partner page where I sort of advertise for colleagues that really I trust and do a great job, and I think will be incredible resources out there for whatever entrepreneurship that you're looking for. But, just try to create like a good professional hub for colleagues. And then one of my biggest passions that I'm hoping to sort of move forward with in the coming years is the work I do with on entrepreneurship, which is the healthcare disruptors arm of the APC consultant. So, I've now been granted, teaching a healthcare entrepreneurship class. I'm creating a curriculum through my program where I teach, because I really want to send, not just PAs out in the field, but other providers out in the field to really disrupt the healthcare system, because we know it's not working for patients. It's not working for us. And if we can disrupt the healthcare system and identify what are the root problems of the healthcare system, and then help people, from a regulatory standpoint, from a legal standpoint, from a funding standpoint, from a growth standpoint, all those areas for them to grow their own entrepreneurship, and then, get into telemedicine, get into, behavioral health with telemedicine, or their own, brick and mortar clinic or concierge medicine, whatever it is they want to get into, because patients need access to care. And the current system is just not doing that for patients. So that's one of my biggest passions is, how can we solve this healthcare system? If I'm going to have a lasting impact, tell my grandkids one day, what their grandfather did to me, how can I change the healthcare system, make it work for people better?
No, that's amazing. Amazing. And this is through all kind of the different arms of your program here.
And, it all started with doing the expert work. It allowed me to have greater flexibility in time, because being a professor is online, and it allows me to sort of, but I'm not stuck in a 12-hour shift at an ER, and, I can't do anything. I'm just there seeing patients, right? There's a lot of rigidness to it, but now I have more flexible time for my family, my kids. My wife works in medicine. And so it's been a very tough ride for us, because, we work opposite shifts and we don't see each other, and it's very stressful and it's very difficult for couples to navigate that. So, this has been a blessing.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Kind of the same boat, found different avenues and gone through the entrepreneurial space, but wouldn't have had even thought about it, right? If it wasn't for the freedom that it brings. You know what I mean? It's Thursday, I would have been stuck in a shift right now. My shifts were, Tuesday, Thursdays, but nighttime. And I get it. It's nice to be able to branch out and really think outside the box. And that just gives you the freedom to be creative. So yeah, me and you wouldn't be talking if it weren't for that, to be honest. So
when you think outside the box, what's great is like, I'm involved in so many different communities, like so many different circle communities, just really connecting with other disruptors and other healthcare providers. So physicians, therapists, nurses, CRNAs, whoever it may be, like we're all just seeking the same thing. And if we can sort of work together and, network with one another, like great things happen. And so I've just found myself in so many of these different communities, and I've just made so many great friends and so many great opportunities, and you never know what's going to happen or blossom from it.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I think we're part of that community. That's how we met in the first place, right? And I think we both share kind of the sentiment that, yeah, I think it's key, right? Finding the right community, finding the right sense of family is huge, because then you could definitely bounce things off each other. PB, what do you think?
No, I completely agree. I mean, I think it's really funny because I feel like I found my community with doctors and physician associates. So it's this interesting, like, I'm the odd man out, but again, I do the compliance and the kind of like the more legalese side of trying to help people understand that. But I think it's really important. And I think that's sometimes what's missing is you work in a larger system. Everybody is so focused on this is my role, this is my job type of a thing. When you take a step out and you do it for yourself, we do become a family. It's not so much about the money. It's about the happiness and the joy and the flexibility and the learning. Like, I love that I get to like reach out to my PA friends and be like, what's this rash? And it's not about who's going to sue me or that's going to be $80 for a consult. It's like, we're just trying to help each other because like we've all grown into our own little areas of expertise. And it's nice to get to flex those muscles. And I don't know, I'm a lifelong learner. So for me, it's the fun thing of getting to interact with people that are smarter and more trained in other ways is that I get to learn something new every single day.
Yeah. I mean, Phoebe, you were present for the panel last year that we did at the AAPA conference. And I'm sure when you were sitting up on that stage with me, you saw the crowd's impact of what we were saying and what we were doing, that people had tears in their eyes, that the pain was real, the burnout was real. And that actually has forever changed me. Like, that opened my eyes to what people have endured, what people are going through, and what the system is doing to them as providers. And so I think what we're doing is going to have a huge impact for all these individuals and how they can sort of find what works for them. For me, it was medical legal consulting, and that's opened the door to all these other possibilities. So I'm sure you had that same feeling, that giving people that opportunity, that education, that ability to that permission to potentially search that, investigate like what would work for them. What are their passions? What are they interested in pursuing? Sometimes you just need that permission or that awareness to pursue that. And I think number one, to sit through those types of events, but also like surrounding yourself with others who feel similarly. And I found myself, when I surrounded myself with negative people, with people who are like complainers and complaining about the system and not really thinking outside the box about how they can improve, it wasn't helpful for me. I went down to a dark space in my career. And this is sort of right before COVID. And I said, I just got sick of it. I just said, I'm going to do something about this. Like, I need to find a way out, and surrounding myself with these types of negative people are not helpful. And so that's when I changed. And I think you got to find your people.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? They provide support. But another point that you made, it's just like you go down and find the wrong people, they're just going to lead you down the wrong path, right? Finding entrepreneurs, finding people that think outside the box, finding people that actually provide solutions, right? Anybody could complain, right? And I tell my kids this: if you come to me with a complaint without a solution, you're just whining, right? So come to me with some
100%.
solution, right? Like if you're just complaining, you're not part of the solution. You're really just part of the problem, right? So, and a lot of the leadership positions that I've kind of fell into just because of that. I'm not necessarily naturally inclined to go there, but it's just like, hey, I can't just sit there and whine about things without trying to change things for better, for worse. But I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but at least I'm trying to do things. So no, that's a good point is making positive strides or any stride really, hopefully it's positive, but making strides to change things is way different than just pointing things out. So no, I like that point that you made. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. Since I made that change, it's been a whole different trajectory for me.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you're so much happier. You're doing things you love, right? You're teaching things, you're creating your legacy basically, right? Like it's kind of what a lot of people want, right? After you go, there's a part of you that's left behind. It's like, hey, this is, and it just keeps on going. So that's awesome.
It's taken a long time to get to this space, I can tell you.
Well, and that's a good point. But I mean, like you've been doing this for 22 years, right? Do you think somebody straight out of PA school or medical school could do this? I don't think so. Right.
No, and I don't think they should, right?
No,
I mean,
not at all.
because number one, you're not an expert at that point in time, but you have to live, you have to endure, you have to understand what it is. I mean, there are plenty of people who don't go into medicine and don't work in the clinical practice that long and decide to go into biotech or whatever it may be. And that's great for them. But like everybody's on their own trajectory and what works for them and what situations they're in. So I think we all build that path. We all get there different ways. So for me, I endured a long time and it took a long time for me to figure out what it looks like.
Now, did you have mentors or people that you leaned on that you were learning from?
Yeah.
Right. Tell me about how you use that and how you use different people's experiences to teach you and build your own kind of experiences.
Yeah. So from a medical legal standpoint, I leaned on really the organization where I'm the president, the gentleman who was doing the work for a very long time, who was the biggest trailblazer in the field for PAs, who had a PhD and wrote all different articles and really set the standard for PAs in this space. So him and I collaborated a long time. And eventually he just said to me, Chris, you need to be president of this organization. And I was like, I don't know. And I asked my wife, and my wife said, you should do it. You should do it. And I don't know that it wasn't until then that I embraced it, but he was a mentor for me and still is a mentor for me. And like, I've leaned on other people who have like been entrepreneurs, maybe not even like in this space, but just entrepreneurs in general. I have a running group that I run with, and I really lean on them for advice. I really respect them as humans, and I'm always open to anybody's advice because none of us are perfect. And we all come from different backgrounds and paths and really try to learn from everybody. So, I have many physicians, there are colleagues that I've learned from. Like we have the chief medical officer of my hospital. He's a former ER director, and he's had tremendous words of wisdom to me. He's been my own unpaid coach for many years. Like really respect him and a lot of the things he said. And so I take any opportunity to meet with people in any community I'm in as well.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I love doing this podcast and talking to different people such as yourselves. Is I found the same thing too. It's learning from others, right? It's not so many years, but despite the many years of experience that I think I have, there's always something that I could learn and take upon. You know what I mean? And finding people and really, I guess, having the humility enough to be like, hey, these people know way better than I do. And, not having that hard head that I have all the time and just going and be like, okay, let me take a step back and listen to their experiences and stuff. So I think that's amazing. And now it's funny, right? Like, talk to my friends that I went to med school with, we're kind of those people now, right? Like you're
Right.
that person now, right? Like you're the person that now people look up to, and nobody really knows when that transition was made. It just kind of happened. But I think keeping an open mind and learning from others is the first step in doing that.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there. I think just being respectful of everybody, being kind, being courteous, and just being humble and just every step of the way, sort of recognizing every person for their own subject matter experts in whatever it is that they do. And I think that just doesn't matter who it is, just be respectful and you'll learn a lot if you just sort of put your head down.
I completely agree. I think the one thing that's really interesting to me is like somebody again who like I'm not traditionally trained. So all of my experience is like hands-on doing it, like making mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes. And I think it's really interesting because so often you hear the new grads that like were like, oh no, I'm the expert because I have the piece of paper. And it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
No, like I always say, like, why do doctors have to go through residency? Right? Like, why do you have to do so much hands-on training before you're actually considered a doctor? Because like nothing matters until you've actually done it. You've intubated someone.
Well, you could argue even after residency,
Yeah.
you're a baby doc straight
Oh,
out.
no, so totally.
Game over.
Yeah.
You're still not it, man.
Yeah. Oh, no. It takes many, many, many years of it. That's why it always cracks me up when people are like, can you explain healthcare to me in the next 2 hours? It's like, no. Everything that we've done has taken so many years to get to where we're at. And imagine how much smarter we're going to be and, more up to speed in 10 more years of continuing to say yes to all the things that we would traditionally say no to.
It's lived experiences. That wisdom comes with that. And I think the older I've gotten, I've become so much more humble and so much more patient and so much more understanding. Definitely has provided perspective.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how time definitely does that to you, right? And experience. But, well, shoot, we are kind of running out on time. Speaking of which, tell us how people that are interested in what you do and kind of your educational program, your mentoring program, the community that you're building, how can they get a hold of you so they could learn more about it? I think it's interesting. And I think it'd be a definite benefit value add.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So great way to get a hold of me is pretty simple. Chris at the apcconsultant.com is my email address, and my website. I'm on the Kajabi software community. So it's the apcconsultant.mykajabi.com. And then there you'll see my masterclass waitlist. You'll see the healthcare hub. You'll see a lot of professional resources, all the podcasts I've done, a lot of the educational events I've done, a little bit about my bio, my journey, all that type of stuff. So it's certainly a really good resource page that I have an incredible VA that really helps put it together for me.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. Maybe any other final questions, comments?
No, just I'm very grateful that you are sharing more about medical consulting because, again, I think it's a really interesting opportunity for not just PAs, but, physicians out there that are looking to kind of flex a different muscle. And so to me, I think you continuing to talk about it is something that is so needed in this community because once you understand the right way to do certain things, it's really hard to do them the wrong way. And so to me, it's like the more that you can build those networks. And so thank you for coming on, Chris. It's great to see you again. Are you going this year?
Yeah, I'm actually doing 2 medical legal talks. I'm talking about basically dissecting a medical malpractice case, doing it with another great colleague who's also a director at a program. And then I am doing AI and medical legal risks with AI. So I'm speaking on that topic as well. So, and then I'm representing my 2 different board of directors that I'm on 2 different organizations. So yeah, I'll be there and having lots of fun and down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I really like this idea of this community in this space. I think, with all the criticism that there is and, with medical providers being involved in the medical legal space, creating community that can bounce each other off and creating a standard of care where everybody gets on this, people get on the same page and agree, hey, we're doing the right thing, I think is very forward looking and very positive kind of what you're doing. So no, it's just thinking more about it. I was like, oh, what a great idea. So thank you for sharing.
If we do it the right way, medical errors, and we don't have to have providers endure a lawsuit, and if patients don't have to suffer or have, complications, we create a better system for everybody. Maybe not for the plaintiff's lawyers, for patients and providers and everyone else in the system. So my hope is I can be a small part of solving that. So
amazing. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate your time. Thank you all for joining. Another awesome insight. Looking forward to seeing everybody back. And Chris, hopefully we could touch base maybe after the AAPA conference and see what you've learned there and what you do. We always like following up with guests as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Reach out.
Sure.
I want you to come back and just talk about AI.
That'd be an interesting kind of talk there.
Yeah, I'm doing lots of teaching of that in my doctorate program, so I love it.
Sure. All right. Well, hey, it's an open invitation. I take it as a promise for you coming back. So you're stuck now. So looking forward to getting you back and talking more about it.
Sounds great. Have a good one.
Awesome. You have a good night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.